photography is a language that I can speak that everyone can understand.
Well, hello, John. Welcome to F22. It's so awesome to have you here. I had so much fun collaborating with you on the We the Creators preset and couldn't get enough. So I'm so happy to be talking with you yet again. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Zach. I'm really excited to be here and yeah, super excited to talk about photos.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know you, why don't you just tell us who you are, where you are, the kind of work you do, just to kind of introduce yourself.
Okay, cool. So, my name is John Baloy. I am a photographer. I'm an artist. I'm a visual artist. I make work about myself. I also make work about people. I'm a portrait photographer, so I center myself in trying to tell stories about people and also sort of make like people subjects of works of art. So I try to make art out of people. That's what I do essentially.
Yeah, I mean, portrait photographer definitely describes you. Your work is so creative, so interesting. It's hard to even put it in a box. I'm curious, like, how did you get started? How did all this come to be for you?
Yeah, so my photography journey has been kind of interesting because it started off with me having like a really huge love for art from a young age. So I only got
Hmm.
introduced to the art field, I think, during high school. I took visual arts, and I think that's when my interest for it grew. I was always a curious child, so I drew. I liked doing impersonations. I liked seeing a world like through other people's eyes. So that kind of helped that curiosity. So after, school, I didn't know how I would apply my love for art. I wanted to do music. I wanted to do a lot of other things that were like sort of like in line with art. I didn't know how it would become like a physical thing that I could say, this is what I do. I was seeing other people that were like me from my area that were doing things with
Mm.
photography and like telling their own stories. And I was just like, whoa, that seems like a cool outlet to, express myself and figure out what I could say or do like through photography. And that's where it started. And then yeah, it
Yeah.
sort of grew.
That's great. And
Yeah.
now, I mean, do you do photography full time, or like what's your day to day like?
Yeah, I do photography full time. After seeing people that do what I do, I wanted to emulate what they did. So there were a lot of
Mm.
photographers that I drew inspiration from. There was this photographer named Jeff Rehoto, Anthony Bila, Rendani Mukeli, Andile Buka. Those are some of the photographers like from South Africa that I was looking at, and I wanted to emulate their style. So I'd shoot every weekend. Me and my younger brother would like shoot each other because we had nobody else
Yeah.
to shoot at that point in time because we were still kind of new in the space. So I think the best way to tell our stories was to just shoot ourselves. So that's what we started doing. And throughout that, I started developing a style and like seeing that like people do enjoy like my expression because I would share it like with people just to see. So it's kind of interesting because at the same time, me saying this, like I have a job, during this time. Like so from like 2011,
Yeah.
2012 to like 2016, I'm working as a auto electrician in the mining industry. So I'm juggling this and a
Mm.
proper day job. So um I'm
Mm.
working, but I'm also like on the internet and I'm seeing this stuff like after work and I'm like thinking, whoa, this is cool. This is what I want to do. So on weekends, I would go out, me and my younger brother, and like try shoot each other. And then, yeah, I think fast forward to like 2016, that's when I decided to quit my job to do it full time because I felt like I couldn't take it further than what I was doing when I was at work. So I needed to fully immerse myself into it so that it could yield the result that it has currently.
That's amazing. I want to just get into looking at some of your images because they're so beautiful, and I have so many questions about how you do this.
Yeah.
So, do you have any images, maybe that like are your favorites or ones that you would want to show first?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite images. This is an image of me. This was taken in 2020. And it signifies a lot for me because it was during a time where as a photographer, as a working photographer during 2020, this is lockdown. You couldn't go outside. You couldn't really make work, and your
Right.
means of living are very limited because you kind of get to see how valuable, photography became during that time because there was no need for it. It
Yeah.
forced you to kind of just like introspect on why you did certain things. And for me, I realized that
Mm.
like me making art and making photos is something that resonated with how I live and just my overall expression. So this was very special because my younger brother actually shot this. This is a photo of me actually. And we shot this at home and it's called Reflection. And it's part of a three-part series, which is like the moon, the sun. It's sort of signified like that reflection. The reflection is me using my camera to show people what I see, and they see themselves through me because I am
Mm.
the photographer. So that image signifies that for me. It's faceless because the identity can be anyone else. It can be anyone, but at the same time, it is a reflection of you, and it is through me, which
Mm.
is the main vehicle of
Yeah.
the expression. So yeah, this is one of my favorite images. And yeah, it's really special. Mainly because it was made with me and my younger brother, but also it's very intuitive stuff that we did. Like we didn't really plan this. I literally had that mirror and I decided, hey man, let me just try figure out what we could do with this mirror.
Yeah. I love how like clean and simple it is, just with the background being almost a flat blue.
Yeah.
And then, just the composition is so focused and so simple. And,
Mm.
it's a simple concept, but like, as you just explained, like it really means a lot. And there's a lot to unpack from this.
Yeah.
And the lighting is gorgeous. This is just natural lighting, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
from the sun.
this is just natural
Yeah.
lighting from the sun. We just got up on the roof. So where I live has a lot of trees. If you shoot from a lower vantage point, you kind of have a lot of these things like distracting you. So I have a thing with my images where I kind of like to make it look like a scene. So if the scene doesn't make sense, if there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things that
Mm-hmm.
are distracting in there, like yeah, it just messes with me. I'm super pedantic about composition, how things look on the screen, and like how
Yes.
how it feels. So yeah, so it made sense for us to get up on the roof because that's the only way we could get the sky without anything else. But we decided like getting
Yeah.
up on the roof would make sense so we could just get the sky as it is. And then yeah, so like what you see there is literally just the sky and the sun hitting me in a certain way where it creates those shadows. You can see the shadows coming through from the left hand side to the right hand side.
Yeah. Let's look at some more. This is so
For
beautiful.
sure.
I'd love to talk about this one because this one feels a lot more planned.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a studio, but like there's clearly, like some props,
Yeah.
maybe some makeup, seems like a lot more planning and collaboration that went into this one versus the other one that was just you and your brother on
Yeah.
the roof kind
Yeah.
of improvising.
Yeah.
So tell me about this one.
So this is also an example of like I spoke to you earlier about me collaborating with a lot of artists and some other artists are like musicians. So this one in particular is Zoe Modiga and she's a musician from South Africa. And she had
Mm.
sort of commissioned me to do a shoot for her album art and like some of her press images. And the interesting thing about this particularly is that she gave me full creative freedom. She was just like, I want you to shoot this however you're gonna shoot it, however you're gonna color grade it. This is how like she
Wow.
kind of gave me what she was gonna do in terms of the styling. Neo Serati did the styling. Amazing job. And yeah, she just kind of gave me where she was gonna go with it, and then she just trusted me with the outcome of how it was gonna look like. She didn't give me any,
Mm.
boundaries in terms of like what she wanted it to look like. She just knew how she wanted to be presented, and she trusted that I would be able to articulate it visually. It was shot completely on film, which is also interesting because of
Oh,
the
wow.
dynamic range. Yeah, like most of my images are shot on film. It's just that
Hmm.
I like to stretch the dynamic range just to see what I can pull from the colors and stuff like that.
So is this in a studio? Is this outdoors?
Yeah, this is
You know,
this is
what's the setup here?
yeah, this is a studio. I can tell
Okay.
you that the backdrop was white. And
Oh,
then
interesting.
I think I just used a gel or something like that at the back, and then everything else
Mm.
is just me editing.
To me, this one is so characteristic of your style,
Yeah,
where it's just these insanely bright colors. Just the kind of thing where you're like, how did you even think of that? Like, where does this come from?
this is cool because this is also during 2020. So I think the previous image that I spoke about with the blue and this image was probably made within the same week. I think I named it Lemon Grab. This was actually shot during the day outside,
Hmm.
natural
Wow.
light, and I literally just have the two lemons in my eyes just as props, and I had a yellow bandana because it kind of matched the yellow of the lemon.
Okay.
And then I've kind of been messing around with this psychedelic kind of color flare influence thing for about 4 years now. And it's what has
Hmm.
come to be my VSCO filter, which is kind of cool because I've been practicing doing
Yeah.
things like this for quite a while, and I wasn't sure where it came from because most of my influences come from nature. I spend a lot of time looking at nature
Hmm.
and just being influenced by it, and a lot of these colors seem like they're very arbitrary, but very true to nature actually. So I think photography is just a vehicle that I use to get the material. And I think the artist part of me is me editing and trying, like coming up with this and making it look like
Hmm.
this, where it's like, okay, this is something more interesting to look at. It's more dynamic. It's not just a portrait, but it's a bit more enticing, you know?
It was so fun when we were making our preset. I made kind of a more safe version, and
Yeah.
your encouragement was basically to push it farther. And some of the
Yeah.
things that we were doing, I was like, you know, this is creating like artifacts in the
Yeah.
colors. You know, I try not to do that,
Yeah.
but it's your style, and it's so interesting, and you can see
Yeah.
that here. It just creates this really compelling image.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems like you don't just have a preset that you slap on everything. Like the editing is really just as much a part of the artistry as the shooting for you, and it's
Yeah.
different every time. Is that kind of how it is?
Yeah, for sure. Because being on VSCO as well has been really a cool thing. Because I started using VSCO, I think, as soon as I started my photography career. Like, so when I started being interested in like photos, I started using VSCO as like my main editing software. So I think at that time there was a street etiquette filter. Like, I used to be super obsessed with Raj Walker's work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys had a
Yes,
street.
he was amazing. He is
He's an
amazing.
insanely good photographer, like insanely good. And I think he also
Yes.
encouraged me to shoot
Yes.
on film because he's like one of those film
Mm,
only photographers. So just
yeah.
seeing that was very inspirational, and I was just like, nah, I want to do stuff that feels, because I feel like with Raj Walker's stuff, like it feels like it has weight, you know, like it's not just like a
Mm,
beautiful image that you look at, like it feels like something that you need to look at for a considerable amount of time to be able to ingest what it is that he tried to articulate visually, you know. Having a look was a thing. Like I wanted to have my own street etiquette filter, which looks like Raj Walker. But then it's like it doesn't work with every single image that I create because I create images from a different,
mm.
from different places. Like sometimes, like I said, this is outside, but from anyone else who might be looking at it might think that like it was in studio, and this was like broad daylight. So
Mm.
I treat my images individually. Like they're not always gonna be the same. Like I treat them however it feels at that point in time. Yeah, everything else is different. I don't just generally like slap a preset. I wish it was that easy because then, yeah.
Yeah, right. Another one I wanted to ask you about is this one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this massive dress and the shiny material and the lighting and everything was just
Yeah.
so eye catching. Would love to know what the story with this one was.
Cool. So, this one was also one of a collaborative effort for it to come about. Also a musician. Her name is Leo Mile. and she had called me, I think a week before she was shooting, it's like a visualizer and stuff for her album art. And she just kind of wanted me to just tell her story, like visually. And what was interesting about this is that she was on a ladder, actually, about maybe like 2.5 meters, and the dress is that long. So that image is shot as it is. Like I didn't enlarge it in any way. Like this is exactly how it is. She was
Mm,
on a ladder, and that dress was as big as it looks on the photo. And then the color grading is a mixture of two things. So I like editing my images on Lightroom. That's where I have
mm,
my presets that are there, like a lot of them that I've created over the years. And then I sort of like find a
yeah,
tone that works with the colors that are already existing. So I work a lot with tones.
right.
Like I like tones more. Like I figure out the tones, and then the contrastiness like comes after, because like I wanted to be striking. I wanted
Mm,
to have depth and layers. And like if you look at the background, it's not plain. A lot of people would have easily gone for a plain backdrop just to make it look clean and editorial, but I wanted it to have that allure. And like I said, nature is always like an
yeah,
inspiration to a lot of my work. So nothing in nature is ever clean and uniform. There's always texture, there's always form, there's
yeah.
always, shape. So if you look at the back, especially more towards like where a head area is, like the background goes from a dark hue to a slightly lighter hue, and then it goes to like another shadowy situation. So it's almost like clouds. Like if you look at like a rainy day, like if you look at the clouds on a rainy day, it
Mm,
gives that same sort of introspection, I guess. So I try to paint with
wow.
my editing. Yeah.
It's fascinating to hear you talk about how you do your grading because it just reminds me how there really is no right way to go about this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you're saying that you pretty much start with like tone and color. I
Mm.
mean, my default thing is actually to start with contrast and like bright, where the white points is and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
there's not a right or wrong way to go about this. We all get there
Yeah.
differently, but I mean, it looks gorgeous. Another thing I notice is you use flowers a lot in really interesting ways, and I kind of wanted to probe you about that. Like,
Yeah.
and you've mentioned in this conversation nature. I don't know if there's any of these that you'd want to talk through.
Yeah. Flowers and nature are a very common thread in my work, because I'm always around nature, just subject of just where I live. I'm always outside. I'm interacting with nature, and I'm just one of those people that care to take time. So it
Yeah.
influences my work. I think a lot of my work is also influenced just by the way I live. So if I'm at a certain kind of state, it
Mm,
influences what my stuff will look like, just because I'm expressing myself this way. So nature
yeah.
is always a part of my work. It's always um, a part of how I express myself, because it also teaches me a little bit of humility, just to know that there is something bigger than me. I think, just from my perspective and my own belief system, is just I feel like there's something that's bigger than me, and like a reference point of creativity that already exists. And
Yeah.
so I draw from that, because like it's unlimited. It's almost infinite.
Yeah. Something that's occurring to me as we're talking, I'm like looking at a beautiful shot like this.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
I would imagine that, yeah, and I want to talk about this one, but I would
Yeah,
imagine that people watching this, there might be people who maybe their job is more like headshots or
yeah,
portraits, more like a more normal portraits for high school graduation or a wedding or
yeah,
a
yeah,
business profile or something like that. And they might be looking at this kind of work longingly, like, oh, I wish I could do stuff like that. Everybody just wants normal photos.
yeah,
Do you deal with your clients' fear or timidity
yeah.
about being so creative and experimental, or is it just the people that want that come to you because that's what you show? Yeah, how does that work for you? How do you get to where you're making work like this and getting paid for it?
When it comes to that, it's been a really interesting and also, trying journey, because saying that you're a photographer basically means that you offer a service.
Yeah.
your service is kind of okay. You take photos of people, whether it's at an occasion or it's for a special commission job. Like this is what you have to do. So for me, I went through that a lot, and I think because I was trying to figure out my editing style when I was much younger,
Mhm.
it worked, and it also worked against me because then me doing stuff like this would also ostracize me from doing stuff for commercial publications where they're looking for something that's a little bit more toned down to what this looks like, you know. So for me,
Yeah.
I had always wanted to make work that could live in an art gallery. This is why I do what I
Mm.
do. I was like, I want my work to live in homes and in art galleries. And for it to live like that, it needs to have a visual impact that is also synonymous with who I am and how I create. So I sacrificed commercial viability for individuality. So I
Mm.
make this work myself. Like this is the type of stuff I make. Like so a lot of the work that I put out, whether it's on social media, whether it's my portfolio, is mostly work that I invest in myself to make. And I want it to look like this. So if you do come to me eventually, you know what
Yeah.
kind of work I make, you know where I stand with my work. And like I said, it's been a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's been a good 5, 6 years of me being very diligent in sort of like having a
Mm.
creative signature that you know what you expect from me. I wouldn't say that I'm a photographer per se. I am a photographer because technically that is what I do. This is, technically that's what I do, but I feel like I'm more of an artist because yeah, you
Mm.
don't go to Van Gogh and expect him to paint in a neoclassic style. Like it doesn't make sense. Like he wouldn't do that. Like, he has his own
Yeah.
style of painting, and that's how I want to approach this thing and what I do. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
difficult for a lot of people to maybe see that they can see themselves like this, but this is my younger brother, and I also shared the creative process with this image as well. I literally just sprayed paint on him. Like this is just like old paint that I
Hmm.
just used a paintbrush on, and I put a red cloth that's the same as a backdrop, and we took this image, and yeah, it was during the day outside, and this is what we could make. But like I said, a lot of the things are just material, and the the beauty of it comes afterwards, where I have to sit with the image and be like, okay, out of these 50 images that I have, like, let me pick the three best that I feel encapsulates the emotion that we were trying to
Yeah.
do. And then let's try to find those colors that work.
Yeah. And I love the lighting and the texture in the skin that you're getting
Yeah.
in a lot of these photos. And like with this one, was there like somebody doing makeup, or like her skin is sort of shiny, and it's
Yeah.
creating those kind of specular highlights that
Yeah.
really give it such depth. Was that on purpose?
To be honest, it was just me and her outside. There was no makeup. There was none of that. It's just the highlights that you
Wow.
see there. It's just the way and that's the beauty about shooting on film as well. I think the highlights that you can retain from just using a negative instead of like a digital folder, I don't think would have the same kind of highlights that you're
Yeah.
speaking of, like those shiny parts of the skin, and like
Mm,
all those details are being like retained
yeah.
just because of just the film. I think this film just retains details better than digital does. And there isn't any trick to this. It's just like I shot this on a Mamiya RZ67. I think I used Kodak Portra 400, or it might have been Gold 200. If you see the original image, like yeah, it looks totally different. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
editing work. And I think that's where my skill set is. I think it's me turning something that could look
Mm.
normal into something that's a little bit more interesting to look at.
And I was going to ask for all the film nerds out there,
Yeah,
what you're shooting with. So you said the Mamiya and medium format, either Kodak
yeah,
films, about a 400 speed.
yeah.
Is that pretty much the normal setup for you?
I'm currently shooting on this here. It's the Pentax 6.7. Yeah, this is my go-to. So this is like my main camera that I shoot on. I also use a Fuji X-H1. This is my
Yeah,
digital
that's great.
go-to. just based on the fact that it has the film simulation, and because I'm obsessed with film, like I needed to look that way, and I like the grunginess, I like the
Yeah.
graininess, and I'm also shooting on a lens that kind of gives me that same control because it's almost similar to a
Hmm.
I mean, it's a manual lens. It's almost similar to a film lens in that like everything is like manually, um, operated, the aperture and the focus as well. So it does give me that
Yeah.
film feel, so that like there is sort of no differentiation between my work where it doesn't look like it's film or it doesn't look like it's digital. So like I said, most of these images
Yeah.
that you'd look at, like you wouldn't tell which one's a film, which one's a digital. So yeah, but yeah, these are
Yeah.
my two main
That's great.
cameras. This is my baby. This is the one. This is the one.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Beautiful. There's so much creativity in all these shots, and you're just sort of creating something new every time, turning the sky yellow or
yeah.
whatever. It's amazing. Do you ever run out of gas? Do you ever feel like you've run out of ideas and you don't know what to do? Like, is it endless for you, or do you have something that you do to kind of find new inspiration and find new ideas?
I mean, that's been me in the past 4 months. I think I kind of felt like I had
Hmm.
burnt out. I had ran out of ideas. I didn't really know what else I could do. I try
Hmm.
not to like really pressure myself into making something new, but it does get to a point where you don't really have new ideas. And I'm also somebody that doesn't like referencing quite a lot. I don't like looking at other
Hmm.
photographers and what they're doing. Like the internet has sort of homogenized everything in the sense that like we all are sort of like one melting pot of information and creativity and sharing. I think a lot of that can just influence the way you see things and the way you do things just based on the fact that like you see it and it's in your subconscious. So I try not to look at a lot of other photographers' work so that I don't feel like I'm not expressing myself the way I should be or that I should be doing what they're doing, which also kind of makes it difficult then because also at the end of the day, nothing is new under the sun, right? Everything has been done
Right.
before. So yeah, it's a very hard thing to balance for me personally because then me not taking in information from this visual thing that I do kind of means that I have to draw from another well. For me, I think how
Hmm.
I sort of negate that is just me immersing myself into other experiences that I have never had before, hanging out with different kind of people that do something else that's totally unrelated to what I do. Like I said, I'm a very intuitive artist. I create from the way I feel. Yeah, I think it's a very difficult one, that one. It's a difficult one to kind of manage.
Said a bunch of things that were fascinating, though, like how with all of us on the internet posting our photos, it creates a kind of homogeny.
Yeah.
And so then you're trying to not take in a lot of that. And it sounds like basically you're not even trying to seek out inspiration necessarily. It's more that you're trying to feed your own soul with experiences with people, and then just kind of trusting that naturally the right things are going to kind of come out once you've filled that well, so to speak.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, for sure, because I think that's the basis of how I create my work.
So you are posting on social media. You're on Instagram. You're on VSCO. You've got quite a few followers,
Yes.
um, and it sounds like you're in the community. You're a part of the community, but you're not just like obsessively scrolling and looking at a bajillion photos every day. Is
Yeah.
that kind of how it works for you, or what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, I do scroll. I'm a scroller. I do like seeing what other people are doing.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, I do. I do. I think it's also important to not be ignorant to, your surroundings. So I am very much connected to like what my peers are doing, like here in Johannesburg. Like, I'm very much tapped into what they do and how they express
yeah,
myself. And I think that's how I
yeah,
can be able to like separate myself from it because I know what they are doing. I'm very much well aware,
mm,
but it's there's
yeah.
there's 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 a difference between you being aware and you consuming. Because then if I decided to be under that consumption, then it would mean that I change what I do to fit into commercial
Mm,
standards of what everybody else is doing to get
yeah,
money. Because like I said, a lot of like we don't all do this thing for the same reason. Technically, I am a photographer because it is a photo that I'm taking, but I don't approach it that way. For me, it's an art form. So I don't necessarily do it for profit. So the reasons why I'm going to do it and how it's going to look might be different from somebody else who, for them,
Yeah.
it's, I need to get my, I need to get my bills paid and like this needs to feed something, So for me,
Right.
photography is just, I would say it's just a language that I can speak that everyone can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So it's more about the relationships, the people in your community. You're not looking to it for what's on trend and how should I change my work so that I can make more money or
Yeah,
get more
yeah.
likes.
Nah, yeah.
You're being connected with your community and back to that relational well,
Yeah.
filling your soul.
For sure.
I love that. I love that
For
approach.
sure.
Um, I want to close this out. Just kind of one parting question.
Yeah.
For people who are looking to you maybe earlier in their stage, in their journey, wanting to do the kind of work that you do, is there any advice, any suggestions, any wisdom that you would want to pass on, or even something that you would say to yourself back in 2012 when you were first getting started that you wish you knew now?
Man, if I told myself back in 2012, I think I would have told myself to be a bit kinder to myself, mainly just because
Mm.
of the journey, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself for certain things to like look a certain way, the way I wanted them to look, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't the time yet. If I knew that I was gonna have my own VSCO preset, um, when I started, I think I would have been more chilled with like just the way I was doing stuff. So like I would have been way more chilled. Like, I would have been way more relaxed. But it's also part of the journey, because you expect certain things from yourself and you want things from yourself. But I think when it comes to this, it's just knowing the why. I think that's the best advice I'd give anyone who's a creative person, and especially if they, trying to pursue a career out of being a creative person, is just knowing the why. Like, why do you do this?
Mm.
Are you doing it for money? If you're doing it for money, then you need to find ways to position yourself into getting to that point where it gives you money, because there are, it's not that like this industry doesn't have lucrative options. It does, but knowing the why will propel you further, because then you don't feel like you need to stop because the why stops existing. Yeah, that's my advice. Like, know why you're doing it, and then if the reason surpasses the need, then I mean you're compelled.
It's interesting. You're not the first person who has said basically that they would go easier on themselves, that they would try to just tell themselves to relax and
Yeah,
to take it, to not put so much pressure. That's a common theme. I think we all do that. So I love that advice. If you're just getting started, looking to John, wishing that you could take photos like him, just trust the process, take your time, and you'll get there. Love that.
sure.
Thank you so much, John. This has been wonderful. Always love talking with you. You all should follow John on VSCO. Just John Baloy. I'll put it on the screen here. Just an endless source of inspiration. So highly recommend that you follow John. Thank you. It's been amazing talking with you, seeing your work. Also, if you don't know the preset, check out John's We the Creator preset. Which one were you? I
Now
can't
it's
remember the
two.
number. Two.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun making that.
That was
That
amazing.
was so
That was
cool.
amazing.
So, all right. Well, thank you, John, for your time. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you all next time.
Cool.